Alright, today we're tying the English pheasant tail nymph, and it's a pretty simple, in some ways, little nymph, but it takes a little practice to get the proportions right. So I'll be using A-dot red thread. We're tying on a size 16 2X nymph hook. So you just, like normal, start your thread off, get it going back. About halfway back we're going to cut thread, and then I'm using a very small copper rib. Here, this is ultra wire, and it's extra small. You want, for these small flies, just the finest stuff you can find. And we're going to go ahead and just tie that all the way back to the back of the fly where we're going to tie in. And then the next thing is I'm going to take off of a full pheasant tail, we're going to take some of the fibers right off that middle section, little tail. And the easiest way to do this is to basically measure the tail along the top of the fly, and I want it a little bit less than the length. And so measure it out and then switch hands, and then do a pinch wrap right on top of the hook. You want those tail feathers to stick right off the back, right on top, and then I can lash that down. Oops. Get there. Lash that down a couple of times. Now, one thing that's important about this fly and these flies, when you tie in like this, if I wrap this feather forward, you're going to end up with a gap right there where the scissors are. So to avoid the gap, we're actually going to bring the feather back over the top, and I'm just going to take some wraps of thread right down on it, right back to where I tied everything down. That'll keep me from getting a gap in there. And then we're getting close to being set up. The next thing I'm going to do is advance my thread about 3/4 of the way to right about there, because we're going to tie this basically in two stages. We're going to tie an abdomen in the back and then the thorax right here in front, and I'll a lot of times build this up a little bit with the A-dot thread. It sometimes takes a little bit to get that bump there, but I like kind of having a little taper going on the fly there. We've showed you this before in some other videos. So build that up, and then I'm going to just put a quick knot in there because I'm going to use my rotary vise here to bring it forward. And then I'm using one of these types of hackle pliers. It's basically like an electrician's clamp. These work really good for fragile hackles. You can just grab them right at the back and then kind of get everything pulled tight if you can. Pheasant tail's can be tough to work with because it's pretty fragile stuff, and it tends to break easily. And the other thing is you have to twist it a little bit, otherwise you will not get it to lay down correctly. It'll start splitting on you as you wind forward. So here we go, we're starting the body. We're just winding forward. Be careful to lay those wraps right next to each other as we're coming up, and then we kind of come up to that bump in the body there, and I might take one more there and stop right there, because that's going to be where we stop the body of the fly, and then we're going to tie the thorax. Now I'm actually going to leave these guys there while I wrap other stuff forward. And so I'm going to take, if I can grab it, this stuff's really fine, this real fine copper wire. Make sure you're not interfering with the tail, and then we're going to just start wrapping it straight forward through the body like that. This reinforces the fly, and we'll keep those little feathers from separating when a fish hits it. Alright, so I got that. Give it a few wraps. And we'll cut that off. And then what I'm going to do is once again take this feather that we were using and I'm going to wrap right back to that tie-in point there. Kind of build up the head, move everything forward. Leave just a little bit of room for the head right there. And once again, sometimes it's easiest just to clean that up. We're going to just jed clamp it right here and then pull these over and just put a nice neat thorax on. You're looking for, you want to build things up just a little bit. And once again, when you're using these multiple strands, it can sometimes be a little tough to get it to lay down exactly the way that you want. And I think that's what I want right there. Throw a couple of wraps in and then get up under there and cut that off. And then just kind of wrap a nice little head on it. And we can whip finish, or you can just throw a couple of half hitches. These small flies, I just throw these small little knots in there because I'm going to glue them up anyway. You want to try to, always stay away from the eye of the hook, because you're dealing with such a small eye anyway, that if you're hitting that with materials or thread or whatever, it gets really difficult to put your leader and your tippet through there. And then finally we're going to finish off with just a touch of head cement, and I'll just make a little pitch for these. I love these small glue applicator bottles like this. They keep things really clean. They're really easy, no brushes, easy to apply, and that post goes right back down the middle like that. And there's our completed fly, redhead pheasant tail. And we'll show you this fly again in a different video with a little bit of flash on the back.